Hi, my name is Carson Draper. I'm here with Western States CAP. We're going through a SIS 2.0 webinar. Just to get started here right off the bat, go into the home screen. Be able to access SIS 2.0 if you don't know, just look up sis2.cap.com on Google or whatever browser you use, sign in, and you'll be prompted to this page right here. Just going through the home screen buttons. If we click up on the CAT screen, if we get somewhere in SIS that we don't like, click up on this CAT button here. It'll send you right back to this home page, and I'll show you how that works here in a minute. This information banner, all this does is showing you the newest updates on SIS 2.0. So as we click through there, it prompts you to maybe go look at certain apps, go look at certain training videos to see what's new. Up here, we have the Help Center. The Help Center has just been added to access for customers. We can go up to the SIS Help Center and access help through that. AWS ID information that tells us what our account is, what level of SIS that we have, all sorts of other general backend information that we don't necessarily need to worry about as we're going through using SIS. And then as well as some external links that take you to different Caterpillar softwares, NPR search, service software files, that sort of thing. And like I said, we'll go over all that stuff more in depth as we move throughout the course. I'm here at the parts counter, and I don't know how to get back home. Don't forget, click that CAT button, sends you right back to the home page. Wherever you are in SIS, no matter what, click that CAT button, it'll reset you and get you right back to this page here, and we can start fresh with a clean slate. So just to get kicked off here, we're going to go into looking at some parts and just the general usage of SIS. The two search bars here, I like to refer to one as a navigate bar and the other is a search bar. So when I'm coming in to navigate SIS, I punch in my serial number or just my prefix. So you see we're using a C4.4 engine. I either do the serial number or just the prefix, depending on what I'm after. And then we can click that little compass to navigate SIS. So here, we're into the dashboard. The dashboard is the first page that we come to on SIS. The dashboard is going to tell us things like engine build date, machine build date, engine model, different serial numbers, part levels, and things like that. From here, we can see our different tabs. We have parts, we have service, and then depending on what machine you have or what model of engine you have, you could have the 3D modeling as well. The 3D modeling is a very useful tool to be able to look at parts. We'll go more in depth onto that when we're going through parts. Here on the dashboard, what we can see is we can see remote service and service software if it's available. You can see that this one's unable to retrieve because we don't have it connected to remote services. We can see product status reports, active fault codes, fluid analysis, things like that. This is basically VisionLink inside of SIS. So one of the newest parts of SIS is they've integrated a lot of the VisionLink things that you can see on VisionLink into SIS directly into the dashboard so that we don't have to go to multiple different platforms to be able to view our machine health. Going into it further, up here you can see there's a little star. When we enter full serial numbers like JKT19270, we can click that star and favorite it. So once I click back on the home button, you can see I have a favorite right here. So that favorite is now saved. When I click into that favorite, it just takes me right here to the dashboard. So moving into it a little bit further, there is, again, two ways to navigate SIS. One, I come up here into the navigate bar, and I go to the dashboard. So I can start with just a prefix, click navigate, and here, now I'm navigating through SIS. The other way is I can use the keyword search. So let's say I have a JKT, and I'm trying to figure out what service, let's say I'm doing a PM1, and I'm trying to figure out what the part number is for the oil filter. I could do something like keyword search filter. Once I do that, obviously, we're going to get a whole bunch of information. That keyword search is everything with this JKT prefix that says the word filter is going to come up. You can see we have 521 results when this engine really only has about 4 filters. If you really get down to the nitty gritty of it, fuel filter, DPF filter, air filter, oil filter, there's not too many after that. So 521 results is quite a few when I'm just looking for one filter. What we can do now is you can see over here we have filters. And these are not filters that we're looking for, but filters in the internet sense as we can filter our results. So if I'm looking for parts, well, under this gear here, you hover over it, it tells you that's for parts. This little document here is for product information. This one's for service. That one's for troubleshooting. So I could come up here and I can click parts. And now we see our results went from 521 to 331 right away. Furthermore, I can filter down by system. So we're looking for, let's say we're looking for the engine oil filter. Well, I don't need air inlet and exhaust systems. Basic engine, yeah, that'll probably get me there. Click on basic engine, maybe move through here. Oh, we see lubrication system. That might get me there as well. Lubrication system. And then you can see we have fuel transfer, valve cover base, valve cover. But you know what? Instead of doing that, let's just apply those two filters and see what we get. Okay, now we're in fumes disposal, things like crankcase breather filters. That's, again, not quite what we're looking for. So when we come back over here to our filters, we see these SMCS codes, and that's basically a coding system that Caterpillar uses to be able to code parts for warranty purposes and job purposes, basically standard job times. What we see here, 1308 engine oil filter housing base. We got 8 results for engine oil filter. That's what we're looking for is our oil filter. We come in here. Now we see 8 results, 8 of 8, and all we see is our engine oil filter groups. And you might be wondering, why is there so many different engine oil filters for this one engine? The reason for that is because this engine is going to be used in all sorts of different applications. So all the serial number breaks and applications all have a different, basically, configuration or a different parts group for that very same filter. So to get around that, something that we could do when we come into the navigate button, if we're looking for parts, what you'll notice is there's no way to filter down any specific parts. So if we're looking for parts, typically what we do is we run with a full serial number rather than just a prefix. We run with a full serial number. That way we can get specific about the actual parts we need for the machine that we are working on specifically, not just general information, but specific information on that specific machine. Up here, you'll see this little icon that has a little hazard triangle as well as a toggle button. What that does is this button, if I click that, that shows me all of, we come in here, we see that button. That shows me all of the parts that are available with this engine from the factory across all applications that use the JKT prefix. When I click the toggle button off, that takes all those configurations away. And now I'm only looking at the configuration of this serial number that we have, which is JKT 19270. So that's another quick way to filter down a lot of results. As you can see here, first we went keyword filter. We typed filter, and we got a whole bunch of different results. Again, it's suppressing 20 now because we have the whole serial number in there. If I deselect that, it shows me those 20, suppressing 20 results. Again, we get all the results that have the word filter in it. However, we don't really get what we're after. So again, click back arrow. We can stay in this navigation pane and do the same exact thing that we did before. So we come into basic engine. We're looking through the basic engine. We're trying to find lubrication group because that's where we were before. Obviously, we aren't seeing it here. That might be down in engine arrangement. Engine arrangement, we're not seeing it there either. Lubrication system. Here we go. See, so the way that SIS breaks things down isn't necessarily always so intuitive from what our brains are always used to thinking. So we come down here, lubrication system, and there we see, okay, we got breather group, filter group, engine oil, filter group, engine oil. Come over here, and we can click the engine oil filter. We see that this one actually is filler group. My bad, filler group. Now we're navigated directly to the part that we need, 7W2326. We look at this gray button here. We hover over that. That's a recommended rebuild part. So another thing that you might see, instead of recommended rebuild part, you might see it labeled as a green that says Caterpillar certified rebuild. So recommended rebuild part or Caterpillar certified rebuild, the gray and the green are going to be that same meaning basically. When we're trying to do a rebuild, that's a part that we want to replace. So getting a little bit more in depth here with part searching, we're going to use the prefix KRS. That's for a 980M wheel loader. When I come into KRS and I click parts, if we're trying to figure out, let's say, where the lift cylinder is, again, we can do the same exact thing we were doing. We can type in, let's go cylinder. Type in cylinder, just super general, basic keywords. We want to be as broad as we can. That way we're not being too specific. Because if I say, let's say, hydraulic lift cylinder, that's pretty specific, but it still only gives me 250 results that I've got to filter through. I could even go even more specific and say hydraulic lift arm, right arm cylinder, no search results. So we want to make sure that we're being specific enough to where it helps us out, but not too specific to where it gives us no results. So we come here, cylinder, we can see we get 738 results. Well, we remember way back when we were looking at that JKT, there's these filters over here. We filter down to parts. Again, we're looking for a cylinder, not any sort of cylinder, but a specific cylinder. We're looking for the right lift cylinder. Cylinder, we see actuator group, powertrain guard, actuator control, cylinder group coupler, engine block assemblies. So we're looking at engine cylinders now. We got a tilt cylinder, and then all the way down here, we see lift cylinder. But if we go all the way up, I mean, that's like 10 or 12 results down. You know, that's a lot of scrolling before we finally say, what the heck? What is this trying to show me? So if we come over here again to our filters, we click hydraulic system, apply. Before we even look over here, we can continue to filter down. We can see we got lift/hoist cylinder, apply that, and then we're here to 3 results. We got our lift cylinder group, our lines group, and then also we scroll back up the lift cylinder. So there's a lot of information that we can find on this parts screen. If we look at the parts screen, we can see there's multiple pictures for this lift cylinder. One shows us the parts breakdown that we want to see. We can close that to make it a little bit easier to see. We can click and drag on this part screen to be able to navigate it. We can also click on these highlights. These call outs will take us to where the location is on the parts list. So you can see I'm down at 16. I clicked on 16. If I click back up onto 1, that goes up to 1, 15, down 15. So as I click through that, it's going to highlight where it's out on the list. The cool part about this is it works both ways. So if I come here and I click on number 4, it highlights number 4 and shows me where that's at in the picture. One thing that we can see as well on this parts screen is we can see alternate parts. So you sometimes see this alternate drop down. And what that's showing us is that's showing us if there's like a seal kit or a Reman part or a replacement part that's available that is different than brand new, but still allows us to get the same quality. So we see here we have Reman 2OR9335. That's the Reman part number for this 3826076 part lift cylinder. And then we also have kits. So if we go to the kits, we can see our hydraulic cylinder seal kit, standard size, that's for this particular cylinder. Another thing, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you might have noticed it says available repair kits, and there's a little J right here. If we hover over that J, it says kit marked J, services, parts marked J. So what that means is a fancy way of saying all the parts with the J on them come with the kit. So when we're doing that, we want to make sure, especially if we're going to try and just order all the add all rebuild parts, rebuild replacement parts, or recommended rebuild parts. When we do that, it's going to add all the seals, and then it's going to also add the kit. So you'll end up getting double the amount of seals. So just be aware of that. If you're going to add the recommended rebuild parts, then just make sure that you're not double ordering and spending too much money in that way. Some other things we can do. If I wanted to look up, let's say, disassembly and assembly procedure on this cylinder, but I don't necessarily want to restart and get all the way back into SIS, click the back arrow here, get right back where we were. Get all the way back into SIS. Instead of going all the way through or maybe even coming over to service and trying to navigate the service dashboard, I can come to parts and I can click right here on service articles. And this will tell me all of the service articles that have to do with this lift cylinder, or at least lift cylinders throughout the 980, or at least the KRS prefix. So we can see here right away, we see disassembly and assembly. We're trying to figure out how to disassemble and assemble, or even maybe just remove and install this cylinder. We come into from individual parts to service articles, and we go to lift cylinder. We can click remove and install, and it takes us right there to the removal procedure. We see all of our standard tooling that we may need for this procedure, as well as some safety, and then we get down into the removal process. So as we continue to scroll down, it will pull us through that removal process. Just to kind of give you an overview of this disassembly and assembly procedure. Nice things about CAT disassemble and assemble. We can see they're always keeping safety in the front of mind. The weight of this cylinder is approximately 717 pounds. So we would know that if we're trying to remove this cylinder, we would need the proper rigging and as well as proper lifting device to be able to remove this cylinder, along with the proper cribbing and blocking and shocking for jack stands, depending on what the job is. So there is a quick way to get from parts to service. Another neat thing about SIS, when we're going from parts to service and we're bouncing back and forth, we can see in the parts is saved right where we were. If I come back to service, the service dashboard is also saved right where we were. One thing as well, if you're trying to look at multiple things at once, you could just duplicate the page, and that page will be duplicated right where you are. And you can go in and say, let's say, well, you know what, I want the lift cylinder procedure and the parts on this page, but I also am working on a KRS and I need something else, like I'm troubleshooting a 101-4 code and I'm doing some diagnostics. There's some things that I can do here to be able to troubleshoot the 101-4 while still keeping my disassembly and assembly procedure as well as my parts picture of it. So if I'm trying to troubleshoot as well as trying to do some disassembly and assembly, I can have them both open, bouncing back and forth, and it doesn't do anything as far as mess up your system or make you lose your place. So when we're trying to diagnose problems on SIS, again, let's say we're using a KRS as an example, 980M wheel loader. We are looking for diagnostic codes. So when we're coming into troubleshoot, we might be hooked up with ET. We see our active or our logged diagnostic codes on our ET dashboard. If you're not familiar with ET, we also have an ET webinar available that we can look through as well. But we see our active codes. We have a 101-4, which is engine control, engine crankcase pressure, voltage below normal. We can go through now and we can troubleshoot that code. That simple. All we need to do, again, is if I start at the home page, I go from KRS, that's my prefix. I could even add a whole serial number. I could go KRS 00987 and then add 101-4. And that tells me now I have this whole serial number out here as well as my 101-4. All I do is type in that diagnostic code number into the keyword search and it'll pull up that diagnostic code troubleshooting procedure. Now you can see there's multiple here. One's engine crankcase pressure, one's crankcase air pressure sensor. Both are voltage below normal. So the procedure to troubleshoot them shall be fairly simple and should be fairly similar because they're both -4 codes. You see there's a fourth one down here, sensor, signal, analog, active test. We'll go through all three right now just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. So clicking onto that sensor, signal, active, analog test, this is a very generalized procedure that's going to cover a boatload of codes. So we can see we have our 101-4 engine crankcase pressure or crankcase air pressure sensor. The only difference is the way that they're communicating. So one's a J1939 code description, another's a CDL code description. But basically one's a standard code description, one's a CAT specific code description. They both mean the same thing. We can see the comments. We come to 101-4. The ECM detects signal voltage that is not in the acceptable range. Code is logged. Value of the parameter is set to gauge pressure. We scroll down even further, all the way past all the codes that this goes for. We can see some general schematics for the sensors that we may be encountering. So we were looking at the crankcase pressure sensor. So we can see pin 1 power, pin 2 return, pin 3 crankcase pressure signal going back to the ECM on pin 33. Scroll down even further, we may see some more. Scroll down even further, and here we go. We get into some more troubleshooting, generalized troubleshooting. This is showing us where the pressure sensors may be located. So if we find our crankcase pressure sensor, image number 6 here, it's located right here on the engine, which is, if you're not familiar with this engine, may be pretty tough to find, but it looks like it's right behind the oil pressure sensor, or sorry, the oil filter, down buried below right here. We scroll down even further, we get to our troubleshooting steps. So first step, check for diagnostic codes. The way we do that, establish communication between CAT-ET and the ECM. Refer to electronic service tools if you don't know how to do that and you need help with that. Download the warranty report. This may or may not prompt you to do that depending on how your ET is set up. If it doesn't prompt you to do that, don't worry. That's an optional step, more for dealer service technicians rather than customer technicians. And then wait at least 30 seconds for diagnostic codes to become active. So give it some time, 30 seconds. That'll wait the debounce time for that code to become properly active. If it doesn't come active within those 30 seconds, well, then we can see a diagnostic code not listed, repair, troubleshoot the active log code. So we'll still go ahead and troubleshoot. So basically, if we have the 101-4, diagnostic code listed in table 1 is active or logged, proceed to step 2, we'll go to step 2. So we'll keep going through this procedure in that same similar fashion, the way that we are right now. The other procedures that we saw, this 101-4, that is a little bit different. Again, they're the same procedure. One's a J1939 communication code, one's a CDL communication code, but both are for the same exact sensor with the same exact voltage below normal condition. If I click into the troubleshooting, this is the troubleshooting procedure, the troubleshooting dashboard. This will give me a lot more information, and sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can be bad, depending on what we're doing. This is a fairly simple code, so I'd probably just roll with the older style diagnostic procedure, in my personal opinion, but I'm a little bit biased. So from here, if you're taking product status reports, you can upload a product status report, and it'll look at any codes that are active and logged and recommend troubleshooting procedures from there. You can also see the dashboard for your status as far as what software is, what ECM we're looking at, what serial number, the installed flash file, whether or not you have the recommended flash file or not. And then moving on, we can click Start Procedure. Here up here is some links taking you to some related procedures, some related codes that may or may not help you, depending on what we're dealing with. We're not going to look at any of those right now, so we'll just go into Start Procedure. And here, it's basically the same exact procedure, laid out a little bit differently, as well as some software that's working in the background to try and help guide your steps properly. So if we come check for diagnostic codes, diagnostic code not listed, that's not our result. Diagnostic code listed is the result. Proceed to next step. We can click Show More here as well, and it can show us a little bit more specific. We can add notes, as in like I have an active 101-4 code, just to make sure that we got that noted. And we'll go ahead and select a diagnostic code listed in the table is active or logged. Proceed to next step. If we click on a different step, so right now our next step is inspect electrical connectors and wiring. If we come up here to A, notice it changed our next step. Inspect the DPF differential pressure sensor lines, fittings, and manifolds. So this is a little bit more intuitive. It'll guide your steps depending on what you select. So we're going to go, the diagnostic code is listed, that is in the table, and it's active. Next step, inspect electrical wiring and connectors. We're going to inspect our connectors. Again, we can click Show More to look at some more specific steps as to what we need. So thoroughly inspect terminal connections, thoroughly inspect this, do 10-pound pull tests, check the screw at the ECM connector. Let's say all connectors and pins of socket are coupled in circuit. We select that, takes us down to our next step, check the supply voltage. We'll just click one so you guys can kind of see how this goes. When I check the supply voltage, the expected measurement is within the expected range, and we'll go here. So you see it says create an open. If I go here, it says create a short. If I go here, it says finish. So it says the voltage measurement is not within the expected range. The fault is in the supply wire or ground. Replace or repair the faulty wiring using CADT to clear the log diagnostic code. So from there, it tells you immediately make a repair. From here, it tells you keep searching. We haven't got it yet. So if we go here or here, that changes our path. And again, the procedure is going to change that path for you. So let's say the voltage measurement is within expected range, but we have a -3 code. We still have a -4 code. So it says create an open at the sensor. From there, we're either going to see a -3 diagnostic code become active or a -3 not become active. Again, if I click -3 is active, it says check 5-volt sensor supply. If I say it didn't become active, it says finish the repair. Because if I didn't see it come active, well, then I know it's the sensor. Thanks for joining me for this little rundown on SIS 2.0. If you want to learn more, join us for the next webinar where we'll also have a live Q&A session. Thanks.